Excuse me, you're in the way. Please move. Alright then, what's my name? Kane. I'm a sophomore in college, just wrapped up my general education courses. Majoring in economics and gearing up for specialized subjects next year. Job hunting looms. And I'm weighing grad school too. My parents are supportive, giving me the freedom to choose my path, thanks to our solid financial footing. Dad's success in business means we've never struggled financially, and I'm truly grateful for that. Once I land a job, I'm eager to repay their generosity. But despite outward appearances, I've got my own challenges. It's about my brother and his wife. Rick, my older brother by 10 years, and I have never really clicked. Despite what others say about opposite gender siblings with a significant age gap not being close, Rick and I have always conversed plenty. Yet closeness eludes us. Hey Kane, could you run out and grab some comics for me and pick up a notebook for studying? Use your own allowance, of course. Oh, and grab a drink too. I've been running these errands for him for years. When our parents were around, they'd sometimes intervene, but with both of them working, I mostly just went along out of fear. Even now that I'm an adult, this dynamic hasn't changed. It feels like it's only gotten worse. The tipping point came last year when Rick married Stacy, who's the same age as him. Stacy's attractive, but she's also pretty distant. I didn't warm to her from the start, and it turns out my instincts were spot on. You have a sister. Your parents are well off. I wonder if Caitlin could give us $5,000 as wedding money, Stacy once remarked, despite knowing I'm still in school. Fortunately, my parents stepped in. Kate is still a student living at home. The wedding gift will be the same as ours. Maybe a little extra, they replied firmly. But my brother and Stacy weren't satisfied. That's not fair. You're an adult now. You need to pay up. Yeah, we're family now. It's time to step up, they insisted. To avoid any drama, I reluctantly handed over the money my parents had given me. Frankly, both my brother and Stacy seemed pretty greedy. I had hoped to keep my distance, but they kept showing up at our house despite my objections. They never missed a chance to criticize me for living at home and commuting to college. You're still living at home. You're not planning to be a freeloader forever, are you? I don't want a sister who's just mooching off her parents. Seriously, even if your college is nearby, it's so lame. Why don't you move out? We could save on utilities and groceries, and there'd be more inheritance left for us. My brother said all this despite having commuted from home to college himself and even having to repeat 2 years. Stacy's remarks were just as cutting. My parents are still active and healthy, but she's already talking about inheritance. It's just tactless. I've held my tongue, fearing the reactions, but things have only worsened. Now, for some reason, they're bringing their belongings into our home, despite living just 30 minutes away in a spacious apartment. Rick, this stuff is cluttering up the place. Why bring it here? You have your own home, don't you? Mom finally spoke up, but Rick brushed it off. This is my home too. What's the big deal? Besides, Kane has plenty of stuff here. Kane lives here, after all. Well, I'm also a child of this house. You shouldn't treat your children differently. There's nothing wrong with keeping our things here. Stacy is part of my family now, so she's part of this household. Future in-laws, Rick will eventually inherit everything. Might as well get a head start, right? They continued to disregard my parents' warnings. Then, one day, things escalated further. On a weekend morning, I awoke to the heavy footsteps echoing through the house. Burly men filled every room, following my brother and Stacy as they shuffled belongings around, clearly hired for the task. What about this? Leave it there. But take that one away. Got it. Following my brother's commands, the men began moving drawers that belonged to my parents and me. They even started packing up my college textbooks and other daily essentials. Hey, what's going on? Stop this right now. Well, we were hired by them, one of the movers replied nonchalantly. No matter how much I protested, they paid no heed. Even my direct complaints were met with puzzled looks directed towards my brother and Stacy. Apparently, they had been hired for a handsome sum. Before I knew it, all the essential items were loaded onto a truck parked outside without a moment's pause. Oh, Kane, leave your money. We'll put it to good use. And please take those 2 old folks with you. You can keep your wallet, at least. They'll think we're heartless. We've rented a weekly apartment for you to stay with Mom and Dad. 2 weeks' rent is already covered. Go there for now. Your belongings will be delivered there soon. What? You can't. But before I could utter another word, They escorted me and my parents out into the yard. I stood there, stunned, gazing back at the house where I had slept just moments before. Reality hit me hard. I couldn't afford to freeze in shock. I'm an adult now, not just a child needing protection from my parents. I guess I'll have to take a break from college. I'll find a part-time job to get by for now. I wonder what happened to my bank book and SIL. It would have been nice if my brother had set aside some basic funds for me, but I can't dwell on it all day. The only thing to do is head to the weekly apartment they mentioned. It's okay, Dad, Mom. I'm not a kid anymore, I assured them, turning to see their stunned expressions, undoubtedly feeling betrayed by my brother. It fell to me to lift their spirits. My expectations were shattered, but in a strangely positive way, huh? When I turned back, both of them were smiling. Well, that went better than I thought, didn't it? It happened quicker than we anticipated. What? Hold on, what's going on? As it turned out, they had suspected my siblings' plan all along. Since the moment they started moving their belongings, they had foreseen a day like this. But listen, Kane, people like them won't back down no matter what you say. If anything, they'll dig in deeper when confronted with reason. Exactly, you can't confront someone like Rick directly. Let them think they've won. They'll lower their guard. That's when you strike. What? So this was all part of your plan? Their smiles widened at my question. Your dad didn't build a company from scratch for nothing. It's time to teach you some of the skills that supported him, Kane. I'll show you how to handle situations like this. They suggested we head to the weekly apartment for now. I had thought we would go straight home to confront my siblings, but apparently that wasn't the plan. Following Dad's lead, I walked with a heavy heart, pretending to be deeply discouraged. I feel like we're being followed. Don't worry, Kane. Just act like you don't notice. People like Rick and Stacy thrive on tormenting others. They'll likely report back that we seem downcast. Keep playing along, okay? Taking their advice, I headed to the apartment. Once inside, they announced with renewed energy. Most of the plan has worked. It's time to turn the tables on Rick and his crew. At Mom's signal, Dad made a call. Proceed as discussed. He was arranging with a moving company. It appeared one of Dad's trusted employees was ready to oversee the operation. Soon, movers were streaming into our home. Boss, everything is proceeding according to plan. Your son and daughter-in-law appear to be quite surprised. Well, that's to be expected. Keep going. Through the phone, there was a murmur of live updates. Apparently, Dad had briefed the movers on which items to take. The sounds of safes and other valuables being moved filled the space. What's going on? Are you barging into someone's house like this? What's the deal? Excuse me, should I call the police? No need. We're here at the homeowner's request. Hey, could you please move? You're blocking our way. Wait a minute, that's my safe with my bank book inside. Where are you taking it? Your father requested this. We're moving it to the new house. What's happening here? I was just about to open that safe. It's your father's decision. And Rick, it's quite telling that as his own son, you don't know the safe combination. Clearly, there's a lack of trust. Shut up. You're just an employee. Wait, that jewelry belongs to my mother-in-law. Why are you taking it? This is under the vice president's orders. It's also being moved to the new home. If anything happens to it, you'll be held responsible. What? Hold on, I can't afford that. Please don't interfere. About an hour later, the room fell silent and I overheard one of the employees. Mr. President, Vice President, all arrangements are complete. Apologies for disturbing you on your day off. No trouble at all, thank you. My father ended the call and turned to me. Let's head to our new home. He guided me to a mansion just as opulent as our previous one, if not more grandiose. What is this place? Our new residence. Yes, Kane, the security here is even tighter. Rick won't find it easy to gain access. And the old house? I sold it discreetly. The broker will take over tomorrow. And what about Rick and Stacy? Don't know, don't care. They might be forced out, but that house was never truly theirs. They'll manage. Exactly, Kane. We have a lot to do today with the move. We need to get everything settled by tonight. Encouraged by my parents, we all got to work. We familiarized ourselves with the layout of the new house and began organizing our rooms and living spaces. By nightfall, everything was in place. That evening, I was so exhausted that thoughts of Rick slipped away, and I fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, after a refreshing rest, my parents filled me in. They had been planning for this day since Rick got married. Rick has always been like that, and I suspected Stacy would follow suit, so I had a contingency plan in place. Moving into this house was part of it. It's a secret even from Rick, ensuring our peace here. What about Rick? I doubt they'll stay quiet after all this. You're right, Rick and his group are upset, but we have a top-notch lawyer from our company. It's clear who's in the wrong here, don't you think? Absolutely. Dad's legal advisor contacted my brother. They've been warned that any further attempts to harm us will result in a lawsuit. If that's how it's going to be, count me out. Upon hearing this, my brother abandoned his plans to seize our old home. They were left empty-handed, but that wasn't the end of it. Turns out my brother couldn't find a job after college. He was only working at Dad's company out of sympathy. There's no place for someone like you here. You're not my son anymore. Consider yourself fired. Following this incident, my brother, who lacks skills to begin with, appears to be struggling to secure new employment. Stacy, who valued money above all else, was furious. Rick, you're worthless without money. I want a divorce. She said that, and they divorced. But Stacy didn't escape consequences either. Dad spoke to Stacy's employer about the situation. They couldn't afford to keep her, especially if it meant jeopardizing a crucial client relationship. They let Stacy go with the condition that their business relationship would continue as usual. I can't believe this is happening to me. I was supposed to be the boss's wife, living the high life. All those jewels, that mansion, they were supposed to be mine. Stacy complained bitterly, but it was too late. She was left with nothing. Her family knew the situation but showed no intention of helping her. They're strange. Dad filled me in on all this. It made me realize that despite thinking I was grown up, I've been naive. There's still so much I can learn from my parents. I must keep striving to ensure I never end up like my brother or Stacy. Luckily, I still have time before graduating from college, so I'll keep working hard, following my parents' example. Hey everyone, I'm Camila, and I want to tell you about my life. I grew up without a lot of money, but my husband Jackson had a totally different childhood. His family was rich, and he even started his own successful business. I have a good job too, but I still feel connected to my middle-class background. The only problem is my mother-in-law Addison. Dealing with Addison was like trying to navigate through a storm. But Jackson's dad, Grayson, was great. Addison, though, enjoyed putting me down and making me feel small about my family's money situation. She'd criticize us in private and even in public. Jackson always had my back, but Addison's insults never stopped. It got so bad that I thought about leaving Jackson because I didn't want to deal with his family anymore. But Jackson's love and support kept me going. He was amazing, unlike his mom. With time, I got better at handling Addison's behavior. So when she showed up with a flashy wedding dress right after we booked the venue, it didn't surprise me. She proudly showed off the dress, asking us what we thought. Isn't it amazing? It's from that fancy bridal shop you guys couldn't afford with your wedding budget, she said, not hiding her dislike. When I mentioned that her dress was too fancy for the occasion, she glared at me, clearly upset. I felt really uncomfortable then, not knowing how to handle her extravagant behavior, especially since Jackson and I were planning a simple wedding with just 60 guests to save money. We didn't want to spend too much, so I found a simple wedding dress that fit our budget. But Addison's dress was way too flashy. It was so extravagant that it would definitely steal the spotlight from me at my own wedding. It was obvious she picked it on purpose, knowing it would make a big statement. When I gently suggested she wear something else, Addison got really mad. How dare you tell me what to wear? I spent $125,000 on this dress. Do you really think I'd waste that money? I'm wearing it, no questions asked. Jackson tried to step in, saying, Mom, listen to Camila. That dress isn't right for our small wedding. Please pick something more suitable. But Addison wouldn't change her mind. No way, Jackson. I love this dress. I'm not settling for some random dress like your wife. I have my own standards. It's my big day too as the mother of the groom, she insisted, ignoring how ridiculous she sounded. Jackson, surprised, argued back, Addison, it's not your big day. Stop trying to steal all the attention. You're not wearing that dress to our wedding. The argument got intense quickly. Addison refused to give up on the dress, leading to a heated exchange between her, Jackson, and Grayson. The tension got so bad that we had to leave early without resolving the issue. Jackson was frustrated, saying, I can't believe my mom would do this. She's being unreasonable. Maybe she shouldn't even come to the wedding. But kicking Addison out of the wedding could make things worse. If we disinvite her, she might make an even bigger scene. She doesn't keep promises and she does whatever she wants. We need to think of a smarter solution, I suggested, thinking about what might happen if we excluded her from such an important day. Jackson was frustrated too, admitting how badly his mother had treated my family and me over the years. I'm tired of her insults and disrespect. It has to stop. She can't ruin our wedding. So we agreed. We needed a plan that would keep Addison from causing trouble without making her suspicious or angry. As time passed, Addison stuck to her decision, leaving us to plan carefully to keep our wedding focused on our love, not her showing off. We all agreed that we needed a smart plan to handle the situation. So Jackson, Grayson, and I got together to figure it out. We were tired of her disruptions and all wanted to make sure she didn't take over our wedding. After talking it through, we came up with a plan and quietly started putting it into action, making sure Addison didn't catch on. We stopped talking to her about the dress and only gave her basic information about the wedding, which didn't bother her much since she was too busy trying to outshine me. Just a few days before the wedding, we were having dinner at my in-laws, and Addison couldn't contain her excitement. "I can't wait for your wedding, Jackson. I've been thinking about it for so long. My dress and jewelry are all ready to shine. It's going to be such a special day," she said, clearly thrilled, though it was obvious she was most excited about showing herself off. "It will be special, especially because I'll be marrying Camila," Jackson responded subtly, trying to bring the focus back to us, the real reason for the celebration. But Addison quickly made it about herself again. "Sure, Camila will look nice. But next to me in my expensive dress, I doubt it. I spent a lot to make sure I stand out." Hearing this, I couldn't help but admire Addison's boldness, insisting she was better and planning to steal the spotlight from the bride on her big day. Jackson complimented Addison's dress to keep things calm, while I silently appreciated his support, squeezing his hand under the table. Grayson, always the wise and calming presence, played a crucial role in our plan. He gently teased Addison, pointing out how strange it was for her to make such big plans for a wedding that wasn't hers. "Addison, you're really going all out for a wedding that's not even yours. Shouldn't we focus on the couple getting married?" His remarks subtly reminded everyone of the real reason for the celebration, steering the conversation away from Addison's self-centered plans without causing more trouble. This clever move was an important part of our strategy to handle the situation gracefully, making sure the wedding stayed a happy occasion for us and our guests, not just a platform for Addison's ego. As the wedding drew near, Addison insisted on having only the best makeup artist for herself. "For my son's big day, I need top-notch treatment. After all, I'm the mother of the groom," she declared. She was determined not to mingle with guests she felt were beneath her, especially while wearing her expensive jewelry, fearing it might get stolen by those unfamiliar with such luxury. Grayson had a clever idea. "Why not get ready at home? It's safer and more comfortable, especially with all your plans," he suggested. Addison loved the idea of making a grand entrance and praised Grayson's thoughtfulness, unaware of our hidden agenda. Grayson exchanged a knowing look with us, showing that our plan was going smoothly. Caught up in her own excitement, Addison didn't realize she was falling into our trap. The thought of her surprise on the wedding day brought quiet satisfaction to Jackson and me. Even though I wish I could see her reaction in person, knowing the plan was in motion allowed me to focus on the joy of the upcoming wedding, feeling a sense of relief. While there was a slight worry about the plan being discovered, Jackson and our supportive friends helped ease those concerns. Everything was organized perfectly, reigniting my excitement for the special day. After months of stress, I felt genuinely thrilled about our wedding for the first time in a while. It was shaping up to be a celebration of our love, free from any outside drama. As the wedding morning arrived, bright and beautiful, it felt like the start of a new chapter we had been eagerly waiting for. The weather was perfect, adding to the joy of the day. Grayson, my amazing father-in-law, was the first to arrive at the venue, well before the rest of us. He stopped by to check on me, and despite my nerves, he'd assured me that everything was going according to plan. "Don't worry, dear," he reassured me, explaining his early arrival was due to Addison's difficult behavior. "Her makeup artist won't be here for another hour. We have plenty of time." I felt immensely grateful for Grayson's support. "Thank you so much, Grayson. "I can't express how much this means to me," I told him. He smiled warmly, reminding me that I was now part of the family and assuring me that the day would unfold just as we had envisioned. His presence was a comfort, especially considering the challenge of dealing with Addison as my mother-in-law. I felt fortunate to have Grayson by my side. After checking in on me, Grayson made his way to where Jackson and I were getting ready for the ceremony. The day was shaping up to be everything I had ever dreamed of. I'll always remember the look of love on Jackson's face as I walked towards him, escorted by my uncle. Both of us were overcome with emotion, surrounded by our closest friends and family, with Grayson's supportive presence adding to the moment. As for Addison, her grand entrance didn't go as planned. Dressed in her expensive gown and covered in diamonds, she expected all eyes to be on her. But when she arrived at the venue, she was in for a surprise. It was empty. Confused and a bit panicked, she called Jackson, her voice filled with disbelief. "Jackson, what's going on? Why is nobody here?" she asked, clearly caught off guard by the turn of events. Addison frantically searched for us at the venue, puzzled by the absence of familiar faces. Jackson broke the news. She wasn't at the right place because she hadn't been invited to the real wedding. Her confusion quickly turned to disbelief, eliciting laughter and amusement from our side. Even Grayson struggled to contain his laughter, finding the situation quite amusing. As Addison pressed for answers, insisting she was speaking with Jackson and not me, her confusion grew deeper. Jackson calmly explained that although the venue she was at had been booked initially, we had chosen a different location for our ceremony. Learning that the wedding had already happened without her left Addison in disbelief, questioning why she hadn't been informed earlier. Jackson, growing impatient, pointed out that her exclusion was intentional, a decision made to prevent the disruptions her presence might cause. Despite his explanation, Addison couldn't believe that her own son would go to such lengths to keep her from his wedding. The conversation heated up as Jackson confronted her about the unnecessary drama surrounding her dress and her attempts to steal the spotlight from the bride. His firm stance surprised Addison, who struggled to come to terms with the consequences of her actions. Jackson's firm assertion that the day belonged to him and his wife, not to his mother, marked a clear end to the dispute, highlighting the significance of the occasion for the couple over any individual's desire for attention. Jackson emphasized that he would no longer tolerate Addison's disruptive behavior, making it clear that the wedding day was about him and his wife, not anyone else. After delivering this message, he ended the call. Despite Addison's continued attempts to reach him and multiple calls to Grayson, we went on to celebrate our reception surrounded by loved ones, undisturbed by the unfolding drama. During a moment alone, I noticed a call from Addison on my phone. Preparing myself, I answered, only to be met with accusations and insults. She blamed me for her exclusion from the wedding, accusing me of manipulating her son and labeling me a gold digger, envious of her potential to outshine me on my own wedding day. I calmly refuted her claims with facts, explaining that Jackson makes his own decisions based on what he believes is right, and his choice to exclude her was his own, though I did not try to influence him. Undeterred, Addison threatened to crash the reception, claiming she was already outside. I brushed off her threats with a mix of disbelief and indifference, reassuring her that she would find no support here. Returning to the reception, I braced myself for whatever scene might unfold. As expected, Addison's attempt to enter the venue quickly escalated. Dressed in her extravagant gown and denied entry by security, she epitomized frustration and entitlement, her actions bordering on the absurd. Rather than garnering sympathy, this spectacle only reaffirmed our decision to keep her away from our celebration. The guests, aware of the situation, rallied behind us, leaving no room for Addison's theatrics to disrupt our special day. Her attempt to steal the spotlight didn't end in triumph, but in a public display of her own making, starkly contrasting with the joy and unity inside. The disturbance Addison caused outside the venue quickly caught the attention of our guests, prompting everyone to witness the source of the commotion. When Jackson came across his mother causing a scene, his frustration reached its peak. He confronted her, dismayed by her refusal to respect his wishes and her insistence on blaming his wife. "Mom, what are you doing here? I clearly told you that you weren't invited. Why can't you understand that?" Jackson's patience wore thin as Addison played the victim, accusing him of being manipulated by his wife, whom she labeled as jealous. Mom, listen to yourself. My wife isn't the problem here. It's you, trying to overshadow her with that extravagant dress and jewelry. You knew she had a modest budget. Your actions were meant to belittle her, Jackson argued, hoping to make her realize the selfishness of her behavior. Addison, seeking support, turned to Grayson, hoping he would defend her actions. But Grayson, equally shocked by her behavior, stood by Jackson. That dress isn't just any dress, Addison. It's practically a wedding gown. How can you not see how inappropriate your actions are? Look around, no one agrees with you, Grayson pointed out, his disappointment clear. Addison's attempt to justify her choice by insulting Camila's family and guests only made the situation worse. They don't get it because they're from a different background, she argued, clinging to her misguided beliefs about maintaining her supposed class. But Grayson had had enough. That's it, Addison. I won't let you insult my daughter-in-law and her family any longer. You've crossed the line this time, he declared, standing firm against her unfounded accusations and sense of entitlement. The conflict highlighted the sharp contrast between Addison's self-centeredness and the united front presented by Jackson, Grayson, and the supportive guests. Her attempt to crash the wedding, instead of gaining sympathy, only reinforced her isolation and confirmed the wisdom of excluding her from the ceremony. Grayson's firm defense of my family was a powerful moment for me, showing the depth of support and love I had found within Jackson's family, despite Addison's disruptive presence. This act of solidarity, affirming me as part of the family, was deeply touching, bringing me close to tears. It strengthened my belief that choosing to align my life with Jackson and his family, separate from Addison, was one of the best decisions I had ever made. Shocked and angry at Grayson's rebuke, Addison couldn't understand how her husband could speak against her, especially to defend what she saw as outsiders. She held tight to her beliefs of being superior, criticizing the wedding and our union. But Grayson's response was surprising and definitive. He expressed regret not for our wedding, but for his own with Addison, admitting their marriage was a mistake due to her unbearable behavior. Then he announced his intention to divorce her, leaving Addison speechless. Grayson wasn't alone in his decision. Jackson also cut ties with his mother, prioritizing the well-being of his wife and their future together over Addison's toxic influence. This decision showed a commitment to shield our new family from further turmoil. Addison was shocked and disbelieving. Her reliance on Grayson and Jackson for financial support had been a pillar of her extravagant lifestyle. Grayson's mention of divorce, along with the prenuptial agreements in place, meant Addison stood to lose not only her family but also the financial security she had taken for granted. Her lavish spending, highlighted by the purchase of the expensive dress, had been unsustainable on her own, relying instead on her husband's wealth. The news of impending divorce and our decision to cut ties with Addison marked a turning point for her. The consequences went beyond losing family connections to a harsh financial reality. Her once secure future, buoyed by wealth and status, now looked uncertain, with the protective clauses of prenuptial agreements leaving her with little to claim. This sudden change in circumstances served as a sobering reminder of the cost of her actions and attitudes, highlighting the transformative impact of Grayson and Jackson's decisions on our collective future. Jackson, Grayson, and I had discussed the situation thoroughly, recognizing the need to set boundaries to protect our new family. Grayson had been considering separation from Addison due to long-standing unhappiness, while Jackson and I were determined to shield our relationship from her toxic influence. Addison, taken aback by the realization that her actions had real consequences, had to face the fallout publicly. Her pleas for leniency, framed as an overreaction to a single dress incident, were met with firm rebuttals. It was evident to everyone, especially Jackson and Grayson, that her behavior went far beyond one incident. They pointed out her consistent mistreatment of me as the underlying problem, dismissing her claims of unfairness as baseless. In a last-ditch effort to gain sympathy, Addison turned to me with tears, pleading for forgiveness. She clung to me, painting herself as a remorseful victim of circumstances. Yet her plea lacked sincerity. It quickly turned sour as she resumed name-calling and accused me of tearing her family apart. Her abrupt shift from fake remorse to open hostility only reinforced our decision to distance ourselves from her. Her failure to offer a genuine apology or acknowledge the impact of her actions further alienated her, not just from me but from everyone present. The guests, initially watching quietly, grew increasingly disapproving as Addison's true colors emerged once more. This scene marked a significant moment for our family. It wasn't just about keeping Addison at arm's length. It was about reaffirming our commitment to respect, unity, and the well-being of our shared future. Addison's failed attempt to reconcile, quickly overshadowed by her return to blame and manipulation, only strengthened our determination. The way forward was evident, marked by a united stance against toxicity and a shared commitment to nurturing a supportive and loving environment free from past grievances. Jackson acted swiftly. Without allowing Addison a chance to argue, he instructed security to escort her out. Meanwhile, both sides of the family and our friends openly criticized her behavior. It was a moment of validation as we watched her being escorted away, allowing us to resume our celebration surrounded by genuine supporters. The very next day, Grayson took decisive action. He returned home only to inform Addison to leave their shared residence and had his lawyers serve her with divorce papers. Her attempts to sway Grayson with tears, screams, and threats in front of the lawyer were futile. When she attempted to approach us, seeking an ally or a way to disrupt our peace, we made a conscious choice not to engage, safeguarding our new life together from her drama. Our phones and social media became Addison-free zones, eliminating any avenue for her to reach out. As for Addison's outcome, it was swift and fair. The divorce left her in financial hardship, her attempts at manipulation proving futile. Her pleas for help went unanswered, forcing her to face the consequences of her actions alone. Eventually, she returned to her hometown, hoping to rebuild her life and reputation, seeking employment and a fresh start. These developments brought us profound relief and closure. With Addison's turbulent influence no longer present, our lives thrived. We hope she finds a path forward that keeps her away from us, allowing us to move on from this chapter